Hi, this is Dr. Michelle Robin with Small Changes, Big Shifts, Building Rhythm and Resilience. And I believe if you'll change one thing a month, one thing for the next 12 months, you'll change your life forever. Thanks for joining me on the journey. Thanks for joining me on Small Changes, Big Shifts, Building Rhythm and Resilience. Boy, do we need some resilience during these times. And I have 3 experts here to chat with us today, especially during this holiday season. And how do we help our kids thrive through it? So, Carron, I'm going to start with you. You're the one I've known the longest.
Yeah.
What's your story?
So my story is I have been a mental health counselor for about 15 years now. Started off in nonprofit, worked at 2 different local nonprofits, had babies and decided I needed to come into private practice. And man, have the past 9 months shown me and taught me a lot. And I am not typically someone who loves to talk, but I feel like the world needs to hear about these kids and about how we can help and about how the pandemic is directly impacting their mental health. And so I feel like I can't not talk.
Well, Carron, you may remember I have a foundation called Big Shifts Foundation.
Yeah.
How to make generational change to 5 to 30-year-olds through whole person health. So what you're saying really strikes a nerve with me, no pun intended, as a chiropractor. So I appreciate that. You've invited a couple of your friends to join us today. Who would you like to, you want to introduce them?
Sure. Elizabeth Goslinga is one of my partners, and we have been working together trying to figure out, as needs arise in the community, how do we reach more people? Because our private practice is full. She sees a lot of young kids. And so we're just trying to get creative to help as many people as possible. And Elizabeth and I started an LLC together maybe 8.5 years ago.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. Elizabeth, do you want to say anything or about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had a similar background to Carron. I started in this field about 12 years ago and I worked in nonprofit with kids in a residential facility and then a local nonprofit, and then worked a lot with trauma and how to educate people about trauma, especially teachers and parents. And then after I had my kids, I decided that I needed a little more flexibility. And so Carron and I have just been on this journey together for a while.
Yes. And then this is my friend, Dr. Julie Brown. And I will say the reason I wanted her to be a part of this talk is with the growing need for extra clinicians and extra support, I feel like finding really good pediatricians that are willing to treat mental health is, I just can't express how important it is. And she is amazing at what she does. She really, really, really builds trust and rapport, and she cares, and she'll make that call at 6 p.m. to make sure the kid's okay. And I just value her as a clinician, a friend, and a person. So I really thought she would have valuable input.
Thanks, Carron, for inviting me as well. I have been in Kansas City since medical school, and after residency at Children's Mercy, I was a pediatric hospitalist for a number of years. And then just as Carron and Elizabeth mentioned, once becoming a mom, my kind of focus and what I wanted to do in pediatric care shifted. And I am lucky enough to be part of Shawnee Mission Pediatrics, which is on the campus of Advent Health Shawnee Mission. We're also affiliated with Children's Mercy Hospital. And I've been there for 9 years after becoming a mom. I think I couldn't have been a pediatrician and general pediatrician until I became a mom. There are certainly things my awesome 2 kids teach me every single day. And I have the best job being able to see families grow and change and challenge me and have continuity in that, which allows me to really build great relationships with my patients and families. And those are very personal and very valuable and incredibly precious to me.
Well, on this show, Small Changes, Big Shifts, Building Rhythm and Resilience happens to be brought to you by Advent Health and Community America Credit Union. So we love having and celebrating you, Dr. Julie and Elizabeth and Carron. We like to celebrate, guide, connect, which provide hope. So we're celebrating you for being in the trenches. Some people, I feel like we said that people have done one of 5 things through COVID. They've either become a monk, a chump, a hunk, a drunk, or a punk. So, and I don't know about you, but I feel like I have just been more and more on fire and more on purpose for the message that we need to have. So I want to talk about guidance as people are trying to figure out, how do I help my kids? And I'm going to start with you, Elizabeth. What are the top 2 or 3 things that you think a parent could do, or an auntie? I'm a great auntie, or a teacher can do to help support kids' mental well-being right now?
Well, I think that's just such a great pertinent question. So, I think the number one thing that we need to remember as adults is that, right now, kids, especially young kids, have had their world sort of upended, right? And everything that they used to look to provide them a sense of calm has changed, especially adults. So adults have this constant sense of stress, right, due to the pandemic, and it would be hard to deny that. So I think the first thing I would say to all caregivers of kids out there is focus on you, because you are going to have to at some point lend your calm to a kid. And so we want to make sure we can do that, right? So doing things like working on having a positive mindset, working on, I think this is really huge for me, working on accepting where I am. Like, it's 20 degrees outside and I'm going to be inside for the next 3 days with my kids and just me. And so accepting that and getting to a place where I can feel good about that really helps me be more positive. And like I said, be able to lend that calm to my kids. So I think that's number one, right? So working on your own emotional regulation is so important. And then number 2, I think, is trying to create a sense of openness about feelings in your home or in your environment, if you're a teacher or if you're, like you said, an aunt. And so that looks like allowing feelings and validating feelings when they arise. So when kids have a big feeling, we want to make sure that we are naming that feeling for them, validating that feeling, and then supporting them through it. So that might look like, your kids are really upset that you turned off the TV, right? And I know lots of kids are getting extra screen time, including my own, right? So, and you say, I know this is so upsetting. I hate it that we have to turn the TV off. And I hate it when I have to turn my show off too, right? And so we want to name that for them, that they're upset, and then validate that, and then support them through that, right? And of course, kids right now are having big feelings about other things than just turning off the TV, right? School changes and other changes, home changes. I know there are lots of parents out there who've had changes in employment, which is hard. And so being able to, like I said, name, validate, and then support that feeling with your kid is really important, because what we want to do is we want to talk and we want to connect with our kids, because that makes a huge difference.
Carron, how about you?
Well, a lot of the things that I see are very similar in terms of, I think the biggest thing, and I'm going to speak a little bit more towards upper elementary to high school, because what I recommend changes based off of everybody's developmental age. And it might be somebody is emotionally or chronologically one age, but their developmental age is a different age. And I think the biggest thing for these teens and tweens is to let them know that we see that they're on an emotional roller coaster. And, being that age is hard enough without social media and without a pandemic, and that we don't know what it's like, but we want to walk that journey with them. And so to keep lines of communication open, I think, is the most important thing you can do. And that means talking, and it means noticing when your kids aren't okay. And you have to look for those opportunities and connect. And I think really saying to them, this is hard. Normalize that, validate it, explain it. But also, the pandemic is making us take it to the next level, which is help them figure out what to do. In the sense that with teens and tweens, all of what they're supposed to be doing, they can't do because it's not physically safe. So we know that they're hardwired from an evolutionary perspective to have this time. Their brain development is changing. It's a massive shift, and they need to be exploring who they are. They need to be pushing away and doing all of these things. and they don't have the opportunity to do it. And so we really need to help them figure out how to be creative. And I think that needs to be part of a conversation. And that's that big piece. As kids get older, the way we parent needs to change. So talking to our kids and actually being with them, not being half on the phone or whatever, just sitting there and being with them. And if you're available, maybe you're just reading a book in the living room, they'll approach you if they want, and looking for those times. Maybe you have to stay up an hour later at night because they like to talk at night. But making sure that we do that, and then helping them realize that they are not alone. I think this is an interesting point in the pandemic, and that we had seen I personally as a clinician saw a shift at the onset of the pandemic. People with pre-existing conditions like anxiety, depression, and OCD, they thrived because they were finally protected for the first time in their life from FOMO, overscheduling, all of that. And then the people that had really relied heavily on distraction and being overly scheduled, they were left to be in their brains for the first time, and they didn't know what to do. So now we have these two groups coming back, and they all feel alone and they all feel isolated, yet they have so much in common. And so to just normalize that age group, you're going to feel alone and isolated no matter what, but everybody's going through this kind of together. And let's give them the tools that they need to talk about things, and not to be afraid of feeling sad or not to be afraid of feeling anxious. We need to change our relationship with how we view feelings and accept that they're okay, and that they're actually very important.
So what I heard you say is be available,
Mm-hmm.
be seen,
Mm-hmm.
and so that when they're ready, they can talk to you.
Yeah.
So don't everybody go to their own devices and go to your own rooms and corners, kind of be in a centrally located area around that. Dr. Julie, what would you like to add?
Well, I think my role as a pediatrician and my partners is that we need to remind people that, although a large part of my job is making sure people are physically healthy and making sure they're growing and developing normally, that I'm just as concerned about their mental health as I am about their physical health. And that I am happy to be part of that team and part of that family approach. Because honestly, sometimes there could be young people that are comfortable enough with me to divulge things to me that sometimes they might not even divulge to their parents. And I want to remind teens that they also know one another as sometimes better than parents do, and that if they notice something in a friend, if they think something stands out, that they shouldn't be afraid to say something. That being physically healthy and having healthy nutrition and having healthy sleep, which is very discombobulated with all the different schedules that they have for school and weekends and all this excessive screen time that they're really being forced to participate in because of what school is, that those are important things when it comes to mental health. Also, I mean, those things that are physically important to you are also mentally important to you. And that not be afraid to reach out. I think there are so many kids that come in for physical ailments, and really it's the emotional things that are happening inside of them that are also sometimes manifesting as physical things. So I can tell you the number of visits for mental well-being and depression and anxiety have just skyrocketed in our office, and we are on a daily basis, helping talk to kids and families, and we're just reminding them that we're there for them too. If they feel like they need a neutral outlet, a place to talk, then I want to help with those things. I want to help connect them to resources. Resources in pediatric care are so hard to come by, and we hopefully know some of the insides of how to help connect the patient to the right person that also can teach them the tools. I think also occasionally medication is important. We certainly see kids work really hard on their mental well-being, and they connect with the counselor that they trust, and they do the work and learn the things. But, despite that, sometimes they still really feel heavy. They still really feel flat. They just feel like all of that is still overwhelming, that their anxiety is just overwhelming them. and that is something that pediatricians should be and are, capable of. You don't have to go to a psychiatrist always to initiate, perhaps medication, because realistically, if you called a psychiatrist today, sometimes it can take several months before they're even available, because we know their practices are stressed as well. So I'm happy to help people learn about that and talk through those things and consider those things if they're important, and hopefully kind of help lighten that load for them as well.
Wealth to me is big family vacations.
Houses, cars.
Money, mostly, yeah.
Am I wealthy? No, I wouldn't call myself wealthy.
Didn't have a lot of money, never really had a lot of money.
Med school certainly isn't cheap.
How did you get this picture?
This is Molly. And it started pouring down rain, and we hid under the tree.
I wake up in the morning and I see her smile, and I know she's the love of my life. I think of her nonstop. She's just totally unbelievable. I wasn't expecting this.
Hey, Mama. That means she loves me.
Am I a wealthy guy?
Absolutely. I may not have financial riches, but
I am wealthy.
In the wellness world, we think about some key non-negotiables. So, and you brought it up, Dr. Julie, I think sleep's non-negotiable. Mm-hmm. If you want to be well, if you want to have your ideal weight, if you want to, thrive through life. And so we actually we just finished a kindness campaign, and we're launching a sleep campaign in January. So what are your, Elizabeth, what are your non-negotiables for your kids to be well?
Well, my non-negotiables for my kids to be well, my kids and kids who I see in my practice I absolutely agree with you. Sleep is huge on your mental well-being, right? That is just so important. It is so hard to regulate your emotions when you're tired. So I think that's really, really important, especially for kids. I work with a lot of kids actually in my practice on, okay, how are we going to set up your sleep routine? Because it's just really off and it's really hard to do things when you're tired. I think all moms know that, and probably every parent knows that right now, right? So the other one that I talk about a lot, again, with my own kids and then the kids who I see in my practice, is exercise. And when I talk about that, I don't just talk about I don't say the word exercise, I really say movement, right? I need you to get outside, hopefully, and move your body, right? Go on a walk. Go see how many acorns you can find on the ground. Go make a scavenger hunt with your kids and do that. But I just think it's so important for kids to move their bodies, right? We know for adults, it can be as powerful as taking an antidepressant, right? Mm-hmm. And so for kids, I think it's just the same. And kids need that space to play too, right? So they need that outlet to play. So I would say sleep, movement, and play are three really non-negotiables for me. And trying to get all of those met, especially if your kid is doing remote learning and they're in front of a screen, can be a really hard thing to do right now. But I like just the name of your podcast, that whole small changes, big shifts. If you can just focus on those, I think you can see a big result.
How about you, Dr. Julie? What's your non-negotiables?
I think that it doesn't take a lot of a parent giving to their kids for them to notice it. Cognitively, if they have us one-on-one without our phone, without background sound, without the static, that's valuable to them. You don't have to be elaborate with what you do with your kids in order to give them yourself and your time. So I think being personal and not being isolated, I think especially for teens, gosh, they thrive with being together. They thrive with being social. So we have to get more creative with being social. Yes, maybe we can't hang as a pack, and maybe we can't go do the things quite as freely as we could before and will eventually be able to do again. But, we've got to get creative. We do have technology at our service. Myself and some of my best college girlfriends. So we have now every week, we've started this 5 p.m. on Saturday. We all get online and we chat, who can make it. We, just catch up on the week. And it's been so fulfilling. And, kids can do that. kids can do that too. And gift exchange, we're going to do, instead of getting together for our little favorite things, we're going to mail things to each other's houses. So I think just being creative and not allowing yourself to become isolated, because that generally leads to, to that creating a lot of just down feelings and not feeling as well as you could. And parents, gosh, put the phone down. Take a few minutes. Your kids value you so much. Simple things go a long way, and that we need to just kind of disconnect. And I think that's non-negotiable. Every day, everybody needs to disconnect to be with their little kids, and that we, hopefully help those older kids be creative about how they connect.
Carron, what's your non-negotiables?
Well, I have a lot, but I think one of the biggest things that we need to realize is that whether we like it or not, our kids are looking to us to know it's okay. They're looking to us for co-regulation. And so I think non-negotiables, obviously sleep is huge. When I'm going to speak a little bit more to teens, but I also educate them. I educate them about their brain. I love this book, Hey Awesome. It's actually a kid's book, but my teens and parents learn even more. Teaching them, like I said, yes, sleep is important, but why? Because our brain is a muscle, right? And we need to work that part of our brain out as well. And the more things fire together, the more they wire together. So if you want to be able to have the calm right side of your brain kick in when, or kick in when you're upset, we've got to use the muscle. So we need to do apps of mindfulness. We need to exercise. I always tell my teens, I say 20 minutes of cardio, heart rate up every day. And the reason I say every day is so that it's actually a habit. And I talk to them a lot about, if anxiety loves sleep deprivation. So sleep is a must. And then it's interesting that Elizabeth said movement. I've been talking to a lot of my kids and teens about a movement plan as we bubble back in. And it's called a bubble plan. And the first thing is be creative. And what does that mean for you? It might mean, starting to bake, starting to knit, doing something with a start and an end so that you feel accomplished. The movement plan includes exercise, but also just being aware that we're at home, so we're not moving around the building all day. We need to incorporate that. For teens, I tell them to have social connection because that's a need that they have. But that means that doesn't mean sending text messages or tweeting, or it means like a live conversation. So whether that's meeting up with somebody who's masked or deciding to, with some of my teen male clients, okay, pick a workout video, FaceTime with your buddies and talk while you're working out. Let's find a way to make this happen. And I think it's also important for them to realize, but what they do is going to set the tone and their mindset. And even though this is really, really stressful for them and it feels horrible and awful, they can choose to have a mindset about it of, okay, well, you know what? At least I can sleep in an extra hour and I don't have to care what I look like from here down. And so I can at least, get that part of my brain rested. But I like to teach them about why they need what they need. So really helping them learn about their brain, I think is really a valuable thing. And to help them understand when they're anxious, why they feel that way, and to figure out, okay, is this because I'm in danger, or is this because it's something I care about? And then you can change how you do something and what you do, and you can create different firing in your brain. So I think teaching a lot of psychoeducation about the brain, and like I said, a lot of apps. I have kiddos they feel anxious and they know to run into the bathroom at school and do a 90-second panic app, and they feel better. So really being in tune with themselves and noticing when they're getting dysregulated so they can stop it before they're at a 10 and they're offline and they can't learn.
You're making me think of this book. I'm going to look it up on my phone here. I listened to it this summer on Audible when I was driving back and forth to the lake. It's called Positive Intelligence. Have you heard of it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Positive Intelligence by doctor someday. I can't see, I don't have glasses on, but he talks about some I think he calls it PQ, little reps of things you can do. And so I love that you're bringing that up. So I've got, so in my first book, Wellness on a Shoestring, 7 Habits for a Healthy Life, we talk about rest, reflect, rejuvenate, which we've covered. We talk about breathe, which Carron, you didn't say that, but kind of breathing.
Well, and that goes with when you teach the kids that page in the book, it goes through, okay, breathing changes things, being brave enough for 30 seconds and doing what you don't want to do, exercise, mindfulness. So yes, those are all part of the tools that literally change our brain.
So, and part of the things we talk about in that too is vitamin D and omega-3s. And maybe Dr. Julie, maybe I'll pass this one to you. Can you talk about the importance of adequate essential fatty acids and vitamin D levels?
Oh my gosh, there are, probably none of us are getting enough vitamin D. You can even be a very outdoorsy person and really still not get enough vitamin D. And those omega-3s, oh my gosh, there's so many great studies about how really getting good healthy fats in your diet help with all this brain myelination and how we focus and how attentive we are, maybe managing some impulsiveness too. Goodness knows we know kids can be impulsive. They're supposed to be impulsive at some level, but how they grow and mature and manage those things. So I think that's definitely something we as pediatricians wanna drive home. Gosh, yes, having healthy fat in your diet, really even having that good sunshine on yourself, but getting that vitamin D, because that does make a difference in your, in your mood. During the winter, we can get that, seasonal kind of effect. So as much as we do dread the cold of the winter, I still need kids to get outdoors. I don't care if you're cold. Put your coat on, put enough layers on. Parents do the same. We can't just say, oh, it's too cold, we can't go outside today. There are people that live all over the planet in colder environments than we do, who go outside and do things every single day. And we need to remind ourselves that we're, especially this winter, going to need to probably force ourselves to do more of that than we ever have before.
Mm-hmm. One of my friends says there's not bad weather, there's poor dressing.
Yes, that's true.
No, that is reframed. I've never heard that in my 50 plus years. And I'm like, okay, pay attention to dressing. So, so do you recommend certain essential fatty acids? What do you tell? Do you have their kids eat avocados, nuts? What kind of?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing would be, gosh, if they can get their kids to eat it in their diet, in their whole food diet, then that is obviously ideal. There are certainly different supplements that we can recommend to people, and kids are picky about taste sometimes. There are some some better tasting things out there. So again, we have some of those tricks up our sleeve that we can recommend to parents. Hey, yes, your kid probably doesn't want to burp up fish oil, but guess what? There's a more like palatable version if you're not going to get them to eat seafood every day, or you guys can't convince them to eat guacamole, which is amazing. So those things that are pediatric tricks that sometimes we're lucky enough to have practiced and can pass those tips along to families.
Yeah, we have an omega-3 that tastes like either mangoes or key lime pie or yes, we had it. We had it a while back, and then they changed the formula, and it was nasty, but they changed it to something different. So I'm like, oh, if I won't take it, I'm not going to recommend it to my kid.
And I think so many kids get very blocked on being able to swallow pills, but again, we have lots of tricky ways and and videos and YouTube videos to send them to, because kids are powerful. If they put their mind to something, they can do anything that they put their mind to. They are incredibly resilient, and it just wows me as a parent and a pediatrician every single day. And I think that if you empower them and tell them they can do something, then they'll believe it, and they'll believe in themselves. And isn't that what all of us want to do as parents, to help our kids believe in themselves and see their own power?
I'm going to shift the question to you as parents, okay? Because there's a saying, you would do what I do if you knew what I knew, right? As patients ask me about being in holistic medicine and a chiropractor, they're like, well, how often do you get adjusted or you get a massage? And it's like, you would do what I do if you knew what I knew. So I'm going to ask you, from knowing what you know, we're going to go from celebrate, guide, connect. And so what resource would you recommend? I've got each of you 2 questions as we start to wrap up. One is what are you going to do with your kids different this year than last year, knowing everything you know? That's my question, my first question.
Well, and is it directed at anybody? Because I know what I'm going to do different.
Go ahead. You're first, Carron.
Well, the first thing that I'm going to do that's different is I think at the beginning of the pandemic, it allowed us to slow down enough to realize how out of control we were as a society. And I have told my kids, we're not going back to this chaotic life. I refuse to do it. We are going to, have family dinners or skip something. And we may be watching something, but it's not a YouTube where we just click, swipe up, down. It's an actual movie and we sit together as a family, and we are slowing down. And I think that's been beautiful for us, and to really just capitalize on family time and enjoying the little things. Like I've found that, just playing basketball, things that I was too busy to do before. And it goes such a long way. I think the more that I've started talking to different schools and things, the more I'm even using what I'm preaching. And my kids have never been happier because I'm present, and I refuse to give that up.
Dr. Julie?
Oh, I think the same. Being grateful, I think, and focusing on the small. I also agree with what Carron said. The go of our lives that really was what our life was like before this is we are so much more happy as a family because we have family dinners together. And honestly, I think before this, that was probably not the norm for most households, because almost some kid in your household had an activity almost every night of the week that some parent or carpool was shuttling around here and there. So I think in just being grateful for little things, that things don't have to be overdone for them to be enjoyable. Like I said, kids really are thankful for the small, and for us to be able to be okay with that too. It doesn't have to be extravagant. And that's what this holiday season most certainly is going to be about, because we're going to have to keep it small in order for all of us to be healthy and stay a little socially distant and healthy.
Well, you made me think of when I was a kid, back before, of course, the internet. I baked a lot. There's just different things, different activities they could do, cooking and things like that. Elizabeth, what's going to be different in your house this year with everything you know?
Yeah, I think I'm going to...
Hang on. I feel the call to ask you this. Or what are you emphasizing more that you're already doing?
Right. Yes. So I think one of the things that, and I want to say first that when you asked that question, I just jotted down a few things, and then Julie and Carron have already said those things. But just, gratitude that, my kids are, I think I know my kids are younger than Julie and Carron's. And like this time, changing my mindset to, not changing, but enhancing my mindset to, this is such a short period of time, and this won't last forever. And that goes in the positive and the negative, right? This won't last forever. They won't be like doing what they're doing right now forever, right? And I want to just capitalize on that and remember that. And also when we're in a hard moment, I remember that too. Like when I was late to pick up my kindergartner and my 2-year-old was screaming, and I was like, okay, here we go. Like I'm trying to remember that's just like 10 minutes, right? And I can get through that, and I can make it through that. So I think for me, just remembering mindset is really important, and making sure that my mindset is right, so that like I said earlier, so that I can lend my calm to them. And I really try to focus on that. And when I was late to kindergarten, I was not lending my calm to my 2-year-old, which is why she was like screaming and crying. So that wasn't a good moment, but I do it. Just, it wasn't that. And then I would say, yeah, I think those are my two big things. And you already said one of them too, that getting outside. I've already sort of like made my mind up this year that like we will be outside every single day. I don't care how cold it is. And I have a lot of family and friends in Minnesota, and they say the same thing. There's no bad weather. There's just bad clothes, right? So we have a lot of mittens and scarves and gloves, and we're just going to be out enjoying nature, because I think that's really important. So
I think all of us have to try hard, even though it is hard, to focus on the silver lining and being the glass half full, because it's easy to list off the negatives of all of this. But all of us are growing up fast. Our kids are growing up fast, and obviously we want all of them to spread their wings and go have lives of their own. So So teaching our kids life skills that we probably didn't have time to teach them, things that are going to be ones that carry on for them, and that their ears are listening to us all the time. So our entire attitude really makes a difference. No matter what age your child is, those little ears are perked up at every moment. And even if you don't think they're listening to you, they are listening to you. So your approach, your conversations, your stress level have a huge impact on your kids. And if all of us can try to at least focus on some of the silver lining of all of this, then hopefully that will be healthy for our kids as well.
Yeah, good advice. I'm going to start to wrap up our conversation. I'm going to ask you for one of your favorite resources as a parent and as a child caregiver director.
I'll go first. Lucky for me, having Carron.
I was going to say, you're going to say mine.
No, I'm not going to steal it, but I would say lucky for me, having Carron and Elizabeth as friends. Their genius minds have helped me as a clinician compile a huge list of books, YouTube videos, apps, and oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many times I have printed this off. So being able to provide parents with something that they can go look at and trying to really broadcast that to the families in our practice and anyone who wants it, because there are resources if you know where to look for them. And we as pediatricians are happy, again, to help connect families to those things.
Awesome. Carron?
All right. Well, my most favorite resource is Superpowered. It's a newer book. And I'm telling you, this book is amazing for 8 to 80 years old. And you can see by all the tabs, it is the most beautiful book I've ever read. And it is really taking that approach of no feeling is bad. It is maybe the way that we think about it or judge it, and has really practical, easy tips. It really normalizes things. It talks about happiness being a feeling, that it's not a destination. Like, we all have bumps and detours and times, so that happiness isn't just a goal. It's something that we can feel. And it talks about mindset and mindfulness.
I'm ordering it.
I'm already shopping at your office. I got you one. That's part of your tip. So that is one of my favorite resources. And then Elizabeth, you have that other book in your office.
Yeah,
but
I'm gonna this one. Oh, you want this one?
Well, that one too. But as clinicians, our job right now is to try to reach as many people as possible. So even on our website, we've created a bunch of free resources. I've been giving free talks to schools. Like, let's get people the right books, because you can learn a lot and you can do a lot of this therapy in moments at home. And so that's kind of been a shift that the pandemic has forced us as clinicians to think outside of the box and figure out how to help them do our job at home.
Yep.
And so this book, I just recommend it to everyone, and it is beyond amazing.
And of course, in the show notes, if you're listening, if some of you are seeing this on Facebook Live and some of you are hearing it on the podcast, Small Changes, Big Shifts, it'll be in the show notes. So feel free to click on those. And then these ladies will interact with you on, are you guys on social, the gals on social?
We had never wanted to go that direction, but the need that we are seeing is forcing us to do so. So on our Aster Counseling.org website, we have a bunch of upcoming events, and we are in the process of doing a Facebook page. I've written several articles and was just in the PV Post, and I'm just trying to get information out. So we are going to have a Facebook page that, if you go to our website, it'll show you. We're in the process of putting that up, because I just feel like we have got to talk, and we just need to give people resources. So yes, we will be putting stuff out all the time. And, luckily there are some wonderful resources for teens and parents and kids. And the resources don't just include books. Like Julie was saying, like when I was compiling a list, it's okay, well, what are the videos, the podcasts? Everyone learns in a different way. And so we try to cover all that in a way that everybody can get what they need.
Well, that's great. And if you're looking for a fish oil source that doesn't taste bad, I can help out with that, or a vitamin that's liquid. Let's see. Elizabeth, do you want to show those books? We got resources, right? Hey, awesome. What else did you have there?
Yeah. Hey, this book is called Hey Awesome, and it's by Carron Young. And then there's another one called Hey Warrior. And I think these books are really great for explaining really just how your brain works and anxiety. And they're good for little kids, probably, maybe like first grade to 80, like Karen said, right? So they're really, really good at explaining how anxiety works, how your brain works. And I think they're great tools if your kid's having they don't even have to be having an issue. Really, I just think it's good to understand how anxiety works in our brain, because honestly, that's what healthy brains do. That's what the book says. We all get anxiety, right? And it's important to know how to deal with that. So I do want to read just one little thing, one page from the book, because I think it's really important and I think it's really applicable to now. So it says, the picture, it's hard to see, but the picture is like a boy thinking about jumping off the high dive here. And it says, you have what it takes to do hard things. The secret to doing hard things is knowing that somewhere inside you, the courage you need will be there, whether you feel it or not. You've proven this because you've done hard things before. Don't let your mind tell you that you can't do hard things, because you can. There's always been a magic in you.
And I think the beautiful part about all of these books that we have talked together is that there's a shift from it being bad to there are some wonderful parts of people that are wired to be more anxious. They make great leaders. They're really good friends because they understand ranges of emotions. So I think these are just really positive books that help people get what's going on.
Well, I totally get it. I have anxiety. I would say that most people have some level, some really high and some a little bit lower. If you're not anxious right now, I'm not sure you're living on planet Earth. Exactly. Concerned. But, and I've been going to therapy since I was a kid. So I appreciate what you're saying. And I manage mine through this whole person health lifestyle, which is one reason when you reached out to me, Karen, I thought this is a no-brainer for me. Mm-hmm. I do know that, once again, we're launching a sleep campaign. Sleep is non-negotiable. It is non-negotiable if you want to be well. Hydrating is non-negotiable. Right. And getting live food and moving. There's, kind of goes back to Wellness on a Shoestring, 7 Habits for a Healthy Life. Yeah. Ladies, I want to start to wrap up our conversation. I'm going to give you each just a chance to say anything that's on your heart. But first of all, I want to acknowledge you and acknowledge our sponsors, Advent Health and Community America. Community America, one reason I love them is they do a lot for kids as well and young teens, helping them grow not only in careers, but also in mental and physical health as well. So thank you to Advent Health and Community America for believing in the message of small changes, big shifts. So I want to give you just a chance to kind of give your final thoughts, something that's just on your heart you want to share, and say thank you so much for joining me. And thank you for the important work you're doing on the planet.
I just want to remind everybody that please reach out to your practitioner, your pediatrician, your family medicine provider, whomever your medical home is. And don't forget that certainly our role, again, is absolutely to help your kids be physically healthy and help make sure they're developmentally appropriate and growing. But for us to help participate in the mental health of your kids, but you as well. I don't treat just kids. I certainly treat their families too, because we're a team. And I always tell every parent, listen, we're working together. We're a team here. You have a mom and dad gut instinct. It is the best thing you can follow because you know your kid's the best, and that I'm on your team and I'm here to help whenever you need me.
I love you share that. In my second book, the E Factor, Engage, Energize, Enrich, I talk about the wheel of support. We're all our own hub, but off that we have spokes. And if you have 2 spokes, your wheel kind of limps around. But if you have 3, it goes a little bit smoother. And you have 4 spokes, it goes a bit smoother. And so we all have people around us that are here to help support us, whether it's our mental health professional, our mental health professional, our pediatrician, our chiropractor, our best friend, our minister, our pet. They help us kind of move along. Karen, how about you? What are some of your final thoughts?
I think it's just really important for parents to remember right now that, yes, some parents are struggling with some really heavy things, but that our teens truly, that we do not know what it's like to be in a pandemic as a teen, and they have biological things that their brains have to do. And so we really need to work with them on getting very creative for strategies to help them achieve what their developmental age is making them do. And I think part of that too is just saying, I feel for you. Help me understand this. And then the biggest piece, and I'm just going to read this quote because when we're talking about parents taking self-care, I just think this says it all. But adults set the emotional tone for our children. As mammals, our brains are held captive to one another. Our chaos or our calm are contagious, especially to those we spend the most time with. And it's by a Dr. Tina Bryson. And I just think that is the most beautiful thing. And that we can even set the tone and co-regulate someone that we randomly see. And just to remember that our kids watch us and we're models. And if we choose to, be open, and if we choose to see them and feel them and be with them physically, they're going to feel that, not just in their heart, but in their brain. And it's going to go a long way.
I want to tag on that a little bit. And Dr. Julie, this is kind of through you. I was thinking, I don't have any children, teenagers living in my home. I have a dog I'm looking at stretching out right here, but and she does regulate. When I have my cell phone, she gets grumpy.
Yeah,
put that phone down. I'm telling you, I know without a doubt, she knows that phone. She does not like the phone. But I'm thinking, is it a strategy for some parents as we go to a little bit more lockdown to maybe have a family or two that they kind of
I call that bubbling up.
Yeah, I think we definitely have suggested that to families. If you do have somebody that you trust and that you have similarities with, and good open communication. I think that all of this is about open communication and what everybody's kind of feeling about their own safety. But yes, I think for sure, right? It gets to that social piece and that social nature of us as human beings, that if there does happen to be another family you can kind of bubble up with, then do it, and just be communicating with each other and holding each other accountable because it's going to keep all of you safe.
You said bubble up.
Yeah, bubble up. I said bubble up because I'm teaching all my clients. I'm saying let's make a bubble plan and bubble up. And part of the plan is, are there families that you can bubble up with? And just the importance of that we are humans and we are meant to be part of a community, and we need people, and our mental health a lot of times dictates our physical health. So we cannot, when we're thinking about staying physically healthy, we cannot take our mental health out of the equation.
All right, Elizabeth, I'm coming to you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think, I just want to say to the parent who's listening to this and thinking, oh my God, I don't do any of that, or feeling bad. Like I had someone call me last week and say, like, I just don't think, I'm staying up at night thinking about how I'm messing this up. And I said, you know what, but you're on the phone with me. And that shows that you care so much, and you're not, the chances of you messing it up all the time are just, that's not happening, right? You're doing things right. And I think that this is such a hard time for all of us. And I just want to encourage all the parents out there that are struggling, that there are also parents that are struggling along with you. And just like you're feeling like maybe you've messed up, you have the opportunity and the chance to repair and do something different literally in the next moment. Mm-hmm. So it's never too late. It's never too late to start. I don't care how old your kids are. They could be 20. It's never too late to start. So I just want to encourage everybody that you can get on the bandwagon, and you probably already are.
And kids innately forgive you. So
yes.
Parents, we do get to make mistakes, but honestly, our kids forgive us. So and that is what makes them extra amazing.
Yeah.
Well, to all of you tuning in today, either by podcast, by video, or by audio, thank you for joining us. I know it's an extra long show, but I thought it was really worthy of the time today as we go into this next level of bubble in the bubble. Then maybe you can figure out how you can bubble up and create this. Maybe you create just such a fun experience. Your kids want to bubble up next year as well. So I'm going to encourage you that the goal is that your kids say, "Holy sugar, let's do that again."
Yeah.
If you're an auntie or a grandparent, I would recommend you buy some of these books. Get out there, get on the website, Aster Counseling. Is it .com?
.org. And we will continue. We have a bunch of videos based off of like age group, how the pandemic is impacting each age group, but just we're going to put up as many resources as we can to help as many people as we can.
Okay, so go to astercounseling.org and you'll see some resources there. And hey, thanks for joining me on Small Changes, Big Shifts, Building Rhythm and Resilience. Hey, here's my quote for the week. And it wasn't the one I pulled because I had a quote that I pulled, but it really goes to what you guys are talking about. And it makes me think of years ago. And many of you may not remember this, but said inch by inch, life is a cinch, yard by yard, it's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to say inch by inch, this wellness is a cinch. Just take the next right step, whether it's calling to get some help, maybe it's getting a book, maybe it's giving yourself some grace, maybe it's turning off Netflix and going to bed on time. You know what? You can take the next best step. I'm sending you extra love. Hey, happy holidays. And hey, I'll chat with you next week. Thanks again to our sponsors, Community America and Advent Health. I sure appreciate you listening to Small Changes, Big Shifts. If you go to the website, smallchangesbigshifts.com, we'll have the show notes ready for you there. If this episode inspired you to make a small change that will lead to a big shift, please share with a friend. You can catch our episode on Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and our website. And if you feel like it, please leave a rating or a comment. Be sure to subscribe so you can catch our episode next week. Blessings to you.